I think we got Josh Steinman coming in.
Speaking of microplastic haters,
Yo,
there he
Yo,
is.
how you doing?
good, good.
Welcome
Doing
to the
good.
show. We got Josh Steinman in the building, in the Temple of Technology. Give us an update. Is it a good morning, and are we going to win?
All signs point to yes.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. How's it going?
It's good. It's good. How are you guys?
We're
You
doing
want to
great.
know? You want a little show lore? I definitely like put one of your initial "Good morning, we are going to win" posts into the stack in the
stack.
early days, and then I put another one in about a week later, and John was like, "Wait, you put this back in?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're still
Yeah, we're
gonna
still
win.
winning. It's still a good
still
morning.
important to remember."
And so we've done
Um,
those tweets like 3 times already.
And I've talked about it on the show before. I think there's this, founders will say something once and feel like they've said it, and you're not realizing that a lot of the return is in this sort of long tail of just drilling this idea.
Yep.
And I really feel like it's become movement.
This is the David Senra thing. You're not advertising to a standing army. You're advertising to a marching parade.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because part of it is self-talk, right? And this goes into like the deep, like how do we program ourselves?
Yeah.
Like human as computer. Scott Adams talks about this, the moist robot hypothesis, but other people as well. And like his school of persuasion is the same school that Bill Clinton and Tony Robbins come from, like Norman Vincent Peale. Like there's a lineage here. So it's like, how do we talk to ourselves as people? How do we talk to ourselves as agents, free agents, like in the world? So part of it is just like I'm telling myself every day. Like you have to wake up and you have to like want it every day. And then the other part is just like obviously, with the public persona that I have, having come from, both the military, but then also politics. Like, man, it was dark for a while, like super dark. And I just wanted something where I just could say to myself every day, like, look, things can turn around. And I actually think they're going to, and certainly they have. But like every day, just wake up and be willing to just like offer yourself up to the universe. Like, yeah, it's going to happen. Like, we're going to win. Like, you're never more than one day away from like catastrophic success.
Going back
Catastrophic
to
success. I like that term. It's great.
Going back to your dark days, do you feel like you got a lot of like were people turning down meetings with your company early on just because of your sort of political leanings?
Should we do some backstory on the company? Can you break down
maybe we should
what you're
start.
building, who you are,
I just
little
assume
career
everybody knows
highlights?
who you are.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure a lot of people know, but give us the basics.
Yeah. So I started off my career in like this weird corner of operational counterterrorism in the U.S. military. That sort of branched into high technology and high technology strategy. Again, when I was still in uniform, and got a lot of exposure to just how much, the world is a very interconnected place, and there are things that we can do in the digital world that absolutely affect the physical world. People talk about Stuxnet. They talk about, these attacks that have happened against oil facilities. So I get out of the military, I go to Silicon Valley, and then 2 years later, just like a strange series of coincidences, I get asked to come back to Washington and essentially be like the most senior cybersecurity person in the US government. Not like I'm going to reset your password, but like I'm going to remake our entire practice of running cyber operations for like the DoD and the intelligence community and Homeland Security and all that stuff. So I did that job for 4 years. And then afterwards, pulled together 2 buddies of mine, including Brandon Park, who helped stand up Amazon's global, what we call operational technology OT cybersecurity program at Amazon. And then Felix Plashinsky, who I'd recruited to come join me in the admin, who was a hedge fund trader. And we started looking at this problem. It's a huge problem. We've digitized the industrial world, and yet it has created these huge vulnerabilities that have been exploited, and some of that stuff makes its way out into the public. So yeah, we just wanted to start a company to solve that.
What percentage actually gets public versus is sort of known among the industry, but not necessarily in headlines?
Yeah, are there foreign agents operating on American soil? Because I hear some people say the number's 0, but I think you had a different point on that.
Right. It's a different meme of mine. Yeah, no, there's absolutely foreign foreign sabotage teams operating on U.S. soil,
Of course.
100%. My actual number is somewhere around 100 teams. My guess is that, and the question is like, you could break that down into, what types. Anyway, yeah, most of it doesn't get public. And, sitting in that chair for 4 years, I had to get the classified reports every day of like, oh, this thing happened, that thing happened. And it didn't drive me nuts, but it was like, man, it makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up.
Are there any cybersecurity stories in history that are public now that you like to point to as like, that could have been prevented, that's the one we're learning from, and here's how my company would prevent that essentially, or here's how I would have stopped that?
Yeah, too easy. So I think 2-3 years ago, someone, I don't know who, literally destroyed the Iranian steel industry in like one day.
Really?
There's video out there. Like they literally took over, the refineries and just started pouring liquid metal all over the floor on a bunch of these facilities. Yeah, there's a bunch of incidents like that have happened.
So walk me through how you would prevent that. I mean, I imagine what you're describing is like remote takeover of a machine that is connected to the internet or maybe air gapped and they didn't have the right security there. How do you actually step in and prevent that for our steel industry?
Air gapping, I mean, a lot of people will say that stuff because they've heard it on like TV or whatever.
That's me.
Yeah, exactly. But these operations take days, weeks, months, sometimes years to sort of like get into a network and then find your way to the systems that you want to take over. And the whole point is like every step of the way of those types of operations leaves breadcrumbs. And so currently the way in which people try and protect these networks is by looking at only one area of technology inside the four walls of the facility, and that's like the networking equipment. So what we do is we look at everything. And so by looking at everything, you just have a bigger picture and you can assemble a narrative. You can try and understand when malicious things are happening at that super high level because you're seeing what's going on with the engineering workstations. We are seeing what happens with the network. We're seeing what's being done on the applications. We're seeing what's happening, with the firewalls.
Yeah.
So we just take it all in and, it's not new to like, do something with a much bigger data set. That's really what we're doing here.
Can you break down some of the difference between espionage projects and sabotage projects? Are there any differences? Are there any risks, state actors that are prioritizing one over the other right now?
Yeah, this is like the thing that most people don't understand. They'll say like, things that are happening right now, it's just espionage. The thing is like, in the course of an operation, like you do the espionage first. It allows you to map the network, map the systems, and then sometimes people will like just leave a little something there
in case they want to do sabotage later.
They want.
Yep.
Pop it.
Okay.
So there's like lots of espionage happening on critical networks. Like, gee, what's that preparation for?
Sure, that makes sense.
What's been your read on our response to DeepSeek broadly? Do you think that U.S. companies have been taking it seriously enough? There's this, general lens from some of the tech community that says it's open source. It's not sort of the same type of risk as TikTok. What's your read on it?
Yeah, look, a major frustration that I have is that we get a bunch of these cutting edge companies, and then almost certainly you have foreign actors, not just the Chinese, like many other foreign actors that come in. I mean, you can read the papers that came out of like the Twitter buyout, transition to X. And they basically are like, yeah, we had foreign intel services, foreign governments like operating inside, X, formerly known as Twitter. I think that's happening at a bunch of our companies. I think it's a huge problem, huge counterintelligence problem. Because the question is like, what are they manipulating? Like, are they putting backdoors in there? Are they changing content? Are they changing, you don't know. And a lot of the companies, many of which my friends have worked at, they don't even have a way to think about this. And also, obviously, like, it's not politically correct to talk about it. Like, hey, maybe we shouldn't hire that foreign national that went to the, like, military college of their respective nation. And whose uncle is like the deputy chief of their intel service. Probably do that.
Yeah. So speaking, the new CEO of Intel that got announced today, we covered this earlier on the show. You may not have seen it. Has invested over the last 20 years hundreds of millions of dollars into Chinese tech companies. Do you foresee any sort of like pushback into bring somebody like that on to run? He's not a Chinese national, but
born in Malaysia, grew up in Singapore, but invested in the Chinese semiconductor company, exited the position in 2022, I believe, and now running Intel.
Look, I don't know the situation specifically. Obviously, Chinese companies are legally required to be dual use.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've architected their entire economy to serve the Chinese Communist Party.
Mm-hmm.
It just means that I'm super wary whenever you see folks that have been allowed to make profit out of that system.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know his scenario specifically running Intel. I certainly hope that, I certainly hope that everything's on the up and up. I have no reason to think that it's not. But whenever I look at, those types of interactions between, what I think the United States and Western allies would call like the free market and the Chinese Communist Party, I'm just super wary as a whole.
Staying on the topic of China, do you think we've learned at all from the sort of DJI just sort of blitzing and taking the entire U.S. drone market? Do you think there's a real risk that they're able to run that same playbook back with Unitree and the sort of humanoid space, or are we going to be smart enough to not let them put a robot in every American's home?
They are absolutely taking that. They're absolutely taking that playbook and trying to replicate it as broadly as possible. For years, I've been screaming to anyone that'll listen on X or wherever else, like we should ban DJI from doing business in the United States. Full stop. Full stop. Everyone's like, oh, all the alternatives are like more expensive or this, that, and the other. Well, yeah, supply and demand will allow the market to correct over time. But it's a huge problem. Like they exactly know. By the way, like if you don't think that senior CCP Intel officials have the ability to just walk into DJI headquarters and be like, give me everything you know about the topography of the United States, like you're smoking crack. They probably have access to it right now. So every time these things fly, anything that gets transmitted into the cloud, whose cloud is it? Where's that cloud located? What access do the Chinese intel services have to it, military have to it? Like, yeah, all that stuff's like in the wild.
What about personal cybersecurity? What do you recommend to the average listener just to kind of beef up your own OPSEC?
Yeah, it's tough. So for normal folks, I just say use the big cloud, use the big providers. That's like the Googles, the Microsofts, et cetera. Enable two-factor authentication. I think probably the biggest thing that I don't hear a lot is whenever you get a message, like an email saying like, hey, like your bank says this or that, delete the email and then go straight to log into the service.
Sure.
Right? And that's like the mind space that you want to be in, because like these guys are social engineers.
Yep.
They know the language to get you to click the link. And that's what they're trying to do. Because they're going to put malicious software onto your laptop, onto your phone, whatever.
Tons of phishing attacks at X right now. And those are getting more and more convincing. You've seen some people leak it out, usually just for meme coins launches, basically. But, but you can imagine being much worse.
Famed investor Kleiner Perkins launched a meme coin. I want to. There's a couple topics I want to get through. One, I'm sure you can only make sort of general predictions here, but do you think this whole TikTok thing gets resolved in the next month? There's sort of there was an initial date for early April that it was supposed to sort of change hands, but we haven't been seeing that much new news about it.
At this point, there's plenty of people that want to buy it. Oracle, Microsoft, Alexis Ohanian. Like, there's so many different capital groups like chomping at the bit to be the buy side on this deal. It's just a question of, can you twist their arm enough to get the sale done, I think. But what do you think, Josh?
Yeah, they absolutely want to retain control of the algorithm, because that's like the prize is the ability to like inject ideas into the youth of the United States or elsewhere in the world. And so I think that's going to be, I hope that's a major sticking point with the way in which it resolves out. at the same time, you have to remember that this deal has the attention of the president of the United States, who is at the same time negotiating with his counterparty, Xi Jinping, over a trade relationship that, there are trillions of dollars in the offing around it. And so I learned this over 4 years of working for him. Like, you just have to trust the boss. He's playing a game that like very few humans have ever been able to play, which is like the most high risk, the most, impactful game of like one nation in the world. And so, look, I hope he's able to negotiate it in a way in which, preserves cognitive sovereignty. There's a lot going on, and
That's a great
I've sort of
phrase.
taken my foot off the gas on it.
Yeah, it's not a focus.
Pro-cognitive
Let's
sovereignty.
kind of pivot to a topic that's definitely, I'm sure, top of mind for you guys. Reindustrialization. The vibes are good. The work is maybe starting.
Ongoing.
Feels like it's starting. It's certainly ongoing. Job's not finished. Are we doing enough? It seems like there's a sort of there obviously is a top-down directive to invest in America, but there's been on the topic of China will give companies very, very low or zero interest rate loans to do development. We're not quite there yet.
I think DeepSeek's taken one of those.
Yeah.
DeepSeek turned down all their venture capital interest and said, "Oh yeah, we're just going to take a 0% loan from the Bank of China." I love it.
So yeah, what like it doesn't. It's almost like it's not an impossible task, but it's a very difficult one. Are we doing enough? Do we need to do more? What's your take?
Yeah, so in my 4 years at the White House, I ended up taking over this not even taking over, but owning this portfolio of like technology supply chains, and it's hard. The Chinese are literally, just like you guys have said, they're out there giving these 0% loans to these companies to try and build what they call national champions, and so how do we compete? I think the answer is just the market, and I don't mean that in a sort of like lame kind of way, like, oh, the free market will take care of it. But like, there is an incredible amount of dynamism in the American system and in the American markets. So like the Chinese can certainly go out and try and drive attention or monopoly towards their chosen, national champions. But we've got a bunch of people that want to make a ton of money here in the United States, a bunch of people from around the world that come here because they want to make a ton of money here in the United States. I think that presents us with different advantages. And so I think that, when it comes to financing, there are lots of tools in the toolbox. There's the Defense Production Act, there's, DoD procurement, there's a whole bunch of things. I do know that the team right now is thinking about all of them. Again, having sat in the seat, I'm not going to take shots at anyone. Not that I have any shots to take, just that like, I'm confident that they're thinking about it. I'm confident that they know, what's available. And I think we're seeing great stuff already.
What do you think about the debate between supply side and demand side stimulus in these projects? Like the CHIPS Act, obviously, $50 billion. I think $8 billion was going to go to Intel, provided some milestones, but Ben Thompson has been advocating for flipping that around and instead just saying, hey, let's have the U.S. government say, we're buying chips that are made in America.
Yeah.
If you show up with chips that are made in America, we are the buyer, and then maybe someone else will buy them. Maybe Google will buy them. Maybe Apple will buy them. But you can guarantee that there's demand, but we don't care about what's happening on the supply side as long as it's happening in America. Do you like that change? Do you like that V2 thinking?
Yeah, I love it. I think, right now, I've heard a lot of strange things about how CHIPS Act has played out. Mm-hmm. I haven't followed it as closely as if I was some analyst covering this stuff for the banks. But yep. I mean, it was one of the approaches that we pushed was this like, look, you just have to have it made in America. That's it. Show up and we'll buy.
Yep.
I think that's one of the things on the table, and I hope they do it.
That's cool.
What's just pivoting back? I don't know if you're in California right now or up at the northern office, but how do we solve the wildfire crisis in California? Right, it's this sort of very complicated issue. You've worked in government. you're very in tune with what's happening in hard tech. It feels like
Yeah.
there's a public role, to play. There's a private markets role to play. There's obviously the whole insurance side, but you're sticking it out here in California, I hope. So what's your position on, what we need to do as a state?
I mean, we got to let the forestry guys like actually operate. It's insane to hear them talk about like what was going on in Altadena, where like years it took them to file these crazy applications with like 15 different state boards letting them do controlled burns and brush clearing, and they'd get said no to. Like, we just got to let these guys do their job. Like, forestry management is a solved problem, right? Let these guys get out there. The Europeans laugh at us. The president talks about this all the time, but it is literally true. They don't have these types of catastrophic forest fires because they have good forestry management. There's an amazing account, MANN, made films on Twitter. You've seen this guy?
No,
He did a film. He took a red camera and he became one of these. What are the smoke jumpers?
Oh wow!
Smoke jumper, and he did this amazing film. Follow him on X. But he talks about it. It's like, look, yeah, these places are prone to fire, but if you let the forestry management folks do their job, like, you can manage it. And the same thing with the water stuff. Like, the solutions are known. Like, there's weird blockages in the way in which water comes into California, and the president's trying to deal with some of that stuff. Like, the state of California, like, people know what the answer is. They're just not being allowed to do it because crazy, weird bureaucracies.
That's right. The movie was called Hot Shot. I remember seeing a trailer for this and being blown away by the visuals. I need to watch this movie. This looks fantastic. Available on Amazon Prime, Apple, Google Play. Go check it out, folks. Anything else?
I think that's all I got.
Thanks for stopping by.
I'd love to, we'd love to have you on when, there's a bunch of these topics.
Cybersecurity correspondent.
You're our new cybersecurity correspondent or brother, depending on.
Or just morning pump up speech.
Yeah.
Just hop on. Just tell us good morning. We're going to win. Then you can hop off. Get to the rest of your day.
We've been starting the show by singing a little bit. So if you ever want to create like an anthem or anything, we
need good mantras. We need good mantras. We have a few. Temple of Technology, Fortress of Finance, Capital of Capital, but good morning, we're going to win works too.
See you guys.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for coming on. It's great.